We just witnessed the start of something very, very special in the NHL as Montreal's season does come to a close. This season was beyond all expectations, the youngest team in the history of the National Hockey League to make the playoffs, kept with the Washington Capitals, the number one seed in the East, the entire series. The top scorer, a point per game on their team, is who's going to be the rookie of the year, not to mention a guy who already looks extremely dangerous on the power play, coming in with just 2 games left in the regular season, and our boy Ivan Demidov. There is so much to look forward to for this Montreal Canadiens team. It's scary for the rest of the NHL. Yes, this season is done, but we're just getting started. We got to dive into all this coming up on this episode of Habs Digest. And just a quick reminder, guys, just because the season's over doesn't mean we're done. We're still here every single day. We're not going anywhere. I know you'll still need your fix after this season, so hit the free subscribe button down below. Stick with us. Jesse, let's hop into this. We'll show the box score as always. Feel free to pause, take a look. How you feeling, man? Obviously, it sucks to lose a series like this, where we had a lot of chances in the third, but I want to credit the boys for fighting right to the end, and honestly, if we're going to go out that way to the number one seed in the East, I'll take it. This is year one of something special, man.
For sure. And this is a tough one tonight because you want to win. You want to keep advancing. These are a lot of competitors in this room, and that's really what allowed us to get as far as we did, being such a young team. As you mentioned, Josh, that being said, there is just so many, by all accounts, this season is a success for such a young team of what they were able to do. Of course, for this one, why it just hurts that much more is because even this game, it was very much it was in reach, right? Mm-hmm. Those first 10 minutes were going so great, Josh. We're outshooting Washington 8-2, and then comes along the greatest goal scorer in the history of the NHL, Alex Ovechkin, off a clean face-off draw there. Obviously, and then you kind of saw the boys got a little bit more nervous from there. They were kind of chasing it, where this game meant so much to them. They're playing so well, and, obviously it was a little bit tough. And that second period didn't help. That third period, nothing new there, kind of rallying, from there. Obviously coming up short. Gallagher hitting a post at the end. Obviously amazing opportunities we're able to press, not just kind of capitalize in that third there. But as you mentioned, Josh, so many positives. One of them, I think we have to start right at the beginning of the game, seeing our boy Ivan Demidov to start game 5 in the playoffs. If you're telling me that at the beginning of the season, I'd say come on, you're joking me. Mm-hmm. This was absolutely unreal, and it is the start of something amazing.
Yeah, everything there. We'll get into the playoff scores in a bit, because even that list is awesome to look at. In a low scoring series, we still had some guys putting up points, but you're absolutely right. It's weird, because I think this is the best I felt in a long time coming out of a playoff series, because this is the first time in a long time where it was we blew all expectations out of the water to get here. Minus 2021, right? Again, losing the Stanley Cup final was extremely tough for making it that far, but right now, it's just man, this is just experience. Everything now is experience. But before we dive into these young guys, Jesse, we do have to start with one guy, and it's a veteran, and it's our boy Savvy, David Savard. This is his final game in the NHL, and you know what? He laid his body on the line in this game. I mean, look, the game score might not reflect it. We saw him lying down on the ice. He blocked shots like almost no one out there, Jesse. Big tribute at the end of the game, going through every single player, hugging. He looked so sad. I'm sure a couple tears were shed. David Savard, so happy when we got him. He laid his body on the line. He gave his all to this team, giving me Shea Weber vibes with him leaving. The nice big beard, the right-hand shot defenseman. Different players, of course. Webby was the captain, but I mean, you can't help but I just wish he has an unbelievable retirement, Jesse. And all I can say is it's extremely well deserved.
It is, and so amazing that this Montreal Canadiens team could give him a final playoff, experience to really end off his career. A guy who's won the Stanley Cup. Obviously an amazing career, and this guy has just done so much for the Montreal Canadiens. Obviously, so famous, especially for his shot blocking, where we've just seen so many times, just him putting his body on the line time after time. And the Montreal Canadiens bench just obviously getting so much energy and so much momentum off of how, he has really played the game. So he has just been able to really teach this next young core of defensemen for the Montreal Canadiens, passed on so much valuable playoff experience. So obviously hats off to David Savard for a truly remarkable career.
It is unbelievable. Thank you, Savvy. Enjoy your retirement. We'll need someone coming up next year, Jesse. Reinbacher? Mayu? Probably Reinbacher. We'll have to see. There might be some other people, but you know what?
Okay.
Yes, this sucked. We lost, but I want to get into the big things, the great things. And look, this is something that we sent out Just a couple of points, Jesse, here. Youngest team in NHL history to make the playoffs. They stayed with the number 1 seed in the East all series long. Demidov and Hutson looked very good. What a season. This is just the beginning of something very special, and I truly believe that. And let's just take a look. Well, actually, I thought Dobeš was good. Maybe we'll get into him in a second, but I wanted to look at the actual point production in this series. 5-game series. Lane Hutson. Again, I want to say this again. The undersized left-hand shot defenseman who's mostly offensive was the Habs' best offensive player throughout this entire series by the eye test maybe not offensive players, at least offensive defenseman, probably by the eye test and the stats. 5 points in 5 games, Caufield with 4 points in 5 games, and a bunch of other guys chipping in with 2 points. The depth scoring was there in terms of ratio. Wish we could have had a few more goals in this series. That 6-goal game in Montreal was fantastic, Jesse, but looking at the top scorers of this, like Hutson and Caufield right at the top, and then of the guys who have 2 points, Suzuki, Slafkovsky, even Newhook, even a guy like Demidov, right? All these guys showing up big for Montreal when it mattered most and getting this experience. And one other thing I wanted to say too, a lot of teams, they get into that crunch time, they feel the pressure late in games when you need to score a goal, they panic. This Montreal team all season long, and it kept true in the playoffs. We pressured until the very end of every single game. One thing you'll never say about this team is that we quit. Whether we're up a lot of goals or we're down a lot of goals, it doesn't matter. And I think that's just an unbelievable thing to say, along with all these young guys' production and just their effort night in and night out.
And you have to feel like, we're making the playoffs with such a young team, having the Calder winner in Lane Hutson, and that's besides all the amazing young prospects that we have to still join the team. Obviously, Ivan Demidov just getting started with the Montreal Canadiens. We have personal best for Nick Suzuki, becoming more than that point-per-game player. Absolutely unreal. Caufield, personal best for him in terms of goal scoring. Slav, personal best in terms of points. Obviously, Hutson has just lit it up. This is that young core for this team where we've just seen so many positive things. We can really build upon that. This sample size and what they've done right now in the playoffs, they've really showed Kent Hughes and Jeff Gordon what type of team they are, but also like what they need probably. They've given them a little bit more to kind of feel like, okay, what's going to really complement them going forward, because we know we're not nearly at our final form. Even with being so young, we don't have that proper second line center like this. Even with such a young team, just having at that position, this series is looking radically different. It was a very slim margin of error, for both sides in this series here. Obviously, the Capitals again, benefiting from Ovechkin there. They're not going to have him for that many more years. I think we're seeing a turning of tide where a team like Montreal kind of on the rise. Obviously, the Caps doing a pretty good job of drafting on their side, so they're obviously a little bit of novelty in the NHL there and some development there. But the Montreal Canadiens, like that core that they brought together, right? Like Kent Hughes, Jeff Gordon, they have to be so proud, but kind of playing a little bit longer, getting the playoffs and giving management more time to evaluate what they need, who would really complement them, especially in these playoff situations when hockey really matters the most, is obviously so important for this big offseason that's coming up right now.
I mean, you said it best. There's a big offseason. A lot of people are saying, hey, we got to go get some depth scoring now, and that's exactly what Montreal's going to go and do. Not to mention, we have 2 first-round draft picks, right? Provided the Calgary's pick doesn't jump from number 16 to 6. That happens next Monday. That'd be a disaster. Not a disaster. We'd lose a first-round pick, but 99% chance, literally, that doesn't happen. So, regardless, 2 first-round picks. Will we trade them? Will we keep them? We have prospects that we can trade. By the way, the Laval Rocket won tonight in a very nice game. Jacob Fowler stopped, I think it was 23 of 25 shots. Sean Farrell with 2 goals. Owen Beck with a goal. What a great game from the Laval Rocket. The future is still just unbelievable. Not to mention, Reinbacher was playing first pairing for them tonight. There's so many great things happening for Montreal. And when we're talking about young players as well, I got to mention Kaiden Guhle. Yeah, he didn't really get on the scoreboard much this series, but again, the highest game score for Montreal this game, a huge bounce back from last game. We talk about guys, Jesse, he's going to be, and we talk about this all the time, the best contract in the league very soon, I think, or at least one of them. $5.5 million for a guy that can be your number 1 or number 2 defenseman every single night, be one of your best penalty killers. I'm excited for that. And I did want to shout out our boy Jakub Dobeš too, because Jesse, for a rookie goalie who only played 16 NHL games before the playoffs, being forced into the playoffs due to injury to Sam Montembeault, the actual specific numbers maybe aren't that pretty, but especially tonight, he put his butt on the line. He made a ton of great saves. we could talk about so many guys from this team. And hey, stick around with the channel if you want to hear more, because we're going to have a lot to say over the next few days, things that we can't even get to in this video. But I thought he did great for what was asked of him, Jesse. And to me, this game alone, plus what he did in the regular season, to me, there's no doubt that he's the #1 spot for our backup next year. And like right now, this guy has solidified a spot on this team if, provided Fowler doesn't have some incredible meteoric rise,
He's grown on you, me, Montreal Canadiens fans as a whole right now. And he just showed so much compete in this game. That's a big reason why, as well with a fair amount of technical skill to really kind of back that up as well. But again, that compete, we saw those big glove saves at some points, kicking out the leg, like obviously a big guy in the nets there. And this was a tough situation for him to be put in. Again, is the situation a little bit different if we're maybe having Monty in this game, even though some things were kind of up and down? Maybe, right? But Dobeš, all the same, put forth an amazing effort. He's been a big revelation of even why we're here in the first place. Again, this young group, right? Where Dobeš has been a big part of this young group of making this team to actually get into the playoffs, which we can't take for granted. Like players that show a little bit of that clutch factor, for me, like that counts a lot in my books in terms of Dobeš. Like he won some games when he really needed to. He showed that's a gamer. And for me, besides the size and, the kind of the technical skills, those are some of the things that matter the most, I think, for the management.
He cold-blooded, same thing as Monty. Like Dobeš he doesn't care if someone tries to get into his face. He wants to get right back in their face. And that's the kind of character that you love to see from a goalie. His play style is very aggressive, but it's also controlled in a lot of ways. It's really, really fun to watch, to say the very least, with Jakub Dobeš. And we're going to get years of that to come. But guys, look, that's going to have to do it for this episode. So jam-packed. There's so much more that we want to talk about. And that's all going to come out the rest of this week. So make sure you stick around for it. But also, in the meantime, don't forget about the giveaway. Leave a comment down below if you made it this far of what you'd want to win. $50 from the Habs store. Make sure you like and subscribe to the channel. Comment what you want, and you'll be entered a chance to win. Winner announced next Monday. That'll do it for this episode of Habs Digest. If you enjoyed, leave a like, comment, subscribe to the channel. Thank you all for another wonderful season for the Montreal Canadiens, and we can't wait to get right back here tomorrow just for you. I'm Josh Gosse, my co-host, Jesse Poirier. We'll catch you in the next one.